welcome back to another episode of Just Be You. I am your host, Delia. And if this is the first time you're hearing me, I don't know where you've been this whole time, but we're just having tons of fun. We're talking about personal development in the midst of some laughs, because who said personal development doesn't have to be enjoyable? So today, my guest, I'm really excited about. We came up with this really fun idea of a skill that a lot of us don't really give enough credit to, but it's definitely valuable. And I know for sure we're totally using this skill in more ways than we perhaps maybe acknowledge. So we're going to get into it with my guest today. She's a career coach who's full of so much information, and I just can't wait for you guys to hear what she has to share with us today. So I'm just going to quit my trap and jump right into it so everybody can give a warm welcome to Marianne. How you feeling this morning?
Hi, Delia. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here with you and just excited for this time together.
Yes, I love it. One of the things to keep in theme of what we're going to talk about, we met in a fun way, and it just really has made me become like a believer more so than I already was, in the power of like collaboration and just kind of putting yourself out there more. And when the way we met was from somebody else's post. So it's another thing to show that when you think no one is looking, someone is always looking, but it may not show up how you initially thought it would. But that's the magic in, collaboration and just doing fun stuff. So
Yes.
how long have you been like in the realm of career coaching, and what possessed you to get into it?
Yeah, great question. Always love this question. Just to be able to talk a little bit more about myself and journey. I have gotten my bachelor's in communications, and at that time thought I was going to work in radio, and realized that was a dying art, dying fad, and then was working in retail, a bunch of jobs, and then got into corporate. All of that to fast forward to say I pursued getting my master's in higher education, actually thinking I was going to leave corporate to go to higher ed. And then I realized in that there was this missing gap in corporate that I really wanted to work on. And from there, my focus, though, in my master's program was career coaching, career counseling. And so once I did graduate, I kind of became that token friend to family and friends for everything resume, networking, interview prep. And so I would say that's really where it started, when I saw that, everyone was coming to me to, ask for some kind of support, and that it became like the joy and the easier part of my day. That's really what, made me want to become a coach and give back. I've always thought about how, I've always wanted to be in service of others. And before I even got my current job, which is at Indeed, I have a journal entry from like over a decade ago where I said, like, I want to help people find their next job or their livelihoods. And then that is what I'm doing in a sense with the career coaching and working at Indeed. I'm helping people figure out their next step in their career journey. And
That's
just
cool.
wanted to be able to support others, because I know that this is, a vulnerable, difficult piece of our life, but it should be the enjoyable part of our life when it comes to career. And yeah, that's what's inspired me.
That's beautiful. Have you worked with your own? Have you used a career coach of your own? Before
Yeah.
you were just like, yeah, I'm gonna grab this and I'm doing it.
So the irony was actually I did not. I just like
Ooh.
put myself in it. Um, and I think that helped, because I have to say, when you see all of the career coaches that are out there who are exceptional, it can be very like, well, what do I have to give that they're not already doing? So I think
Yeah.
that helped me like spearhead, jump into it. But then I realized in the journey, probably about a year in, that I myself needed a coach too. And then I've had a few different ones, just because, like therapy in a way, it's kind of like testing out, getting different needs from certain people. And so at different parts of my journey, I look to others just so that I can learn about different parts of myself when it comes to both life and career coaching. But yeah, at first I did not have one jumping into it, but now I do see there's the benefit of it. And being part of this community too, it's really great when you're the coach to then have a coach, because it's like you're helping each other.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know that I have coaches. I mean, then again, I feel like everyone is kind of a coach in their own way, depending on, whatever their specific, talent or skill is. But I mean, I guess I have accountability partners. And we
Love
just kind
that.
of
That's important.
and I have like three of them. At first I was like, that's kind of intense. But they all serve their purpose, and they just, we kind of keep each other accountable and like in line with different things. So that's I appreciate that. Not a
Yeah.
plug, but if y'all don't have an accountability partner, find one. They're helpful. There's power in
Yeah.
it.
I also just want to share with you saying that having a mentor is pretty important too. And I would say that probably initially, before having a coach of my own, I've had a lot of great female mentors in my life who have supported me, who have maybe dabbled in coaching on their own. And so our mentorship became a coaching relationship. And so I would say that definitely also helped spearhead me in this direction.
Very cool. I love it. So this is kind of like a little sidebar, but being that you mentioned Indeed, is there like an algorithm for their like job search?
Yes. So, like all the other job applicant tracking systems out there, there is a way between the talent community to assess what you're looking for. That way, we can submit and send you roles that would be of interest to you. So, just like any good AI that's out there, artificial intelligence, for those who don't know the acronym,
Yeah.
it does play a crucial part in how we begin to set up and send companies or roles to individuals, as well as what you input and tell us is how we help and support you.
Got it. Okay, that's pretty cool. So there is like a human component to it, like somebody's actually like looking at them. Because I always kind of
Yes.
wondered, I'm like, is this all like AI, or like where does the human component come
Oh
into?
yeah, I mean, there's recruiters, we still have those, but the system itself helps with, like I'm saying, the job postings, getting the role out there, sending it to someone, but then you still need to fill out, submit your information, or quickly or easily apply, we call it, and then a recruiter would then review your information and then get back to you if there was a fit.
Sweet. I love the like hidden gems we're giving away. That's totally
Yeah.
cool. Insider sneak peek, guys. So, in all your experience, how important is networking? Because networking, I know, gives ton of people great anxiety because there's always like, well, what do I say? How do I start? And just that whole dynamic. So, what are your thoughts about networking?
Yeah, I love it. I'm a high extrovert, but we're going to be talking about in today how it shows up for both the introvert and extrovert. But just like we were talking about earlier for each other, that was networking to me. I saw an opportunity that, someone that I knew met with you, and I just wanted to be able to put myself out there, not with something to get, but how could we support each other? How could we be of service to each other? And so that's where the beauty of networking happens, because look, I get to be here with you today and we both get to talk. And then who knows, from like paying it forward from each other, who we're going to be able to support after today. So I definitely think there's a lot of beautiful elements to networking that are both passive as well as intentional. And that, I think, is what you need to make sure that you're looking at when you're approaching networking to see a reward or getting the most out of it.
No, absolutely. I love it. So are there like do's and don'ts to networking?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, in this virtual climate that has been, right, for the last few years, it's looked a lot different, right? We weren't just organically meeting people in the kitchen at our company, or we weren't just meeting people at an event or at a happy hour. We had to be a bit more strategic. So, like, do's and don'ts, I would just say, first off, is like, don't just like reach out to anyone with like an ask. You're really reaching out because you're looking to build rapport and relationship. And a lot of that comes back to like, okay, what's interesting about that company or about that person or about that role that you're looking to learn about. And so I think what's important there is being able to do the back end research of it so that
Yeah.
you can, come to the table with something. And then, so that would initially start with don't ask for something, come to something to be able to provide. And then if you can create a space where you can both leverage each other to help support each other, like then that's wonderful. In addition, I would say some dues are, being able to reach out and discuss things that are both of importance to you. So you can just, be able to help one another with what you're looking for. Other dues, I would say, is try to connect with someone at least once a day. That way you're carefully and organically, connecting with someone. I definitely think that's a really great way. Again, some don'ts is just don't like blast and reach out with no intent. You definitely want to make sure that you are being thoughtful of it as well, so that it doesn't just seem like you're trying to collect as many followers or connections, and that there's, again, intent behind it.
No, I love it because like just as you were like describing it, I'm like, oh, there's like a relationship building component to it. And sometimes I'm just like, well, why don't I just start out like finding out what the person likes, just like in general, and find out where the commonality is and just kind of springboard from there, because you just never know what happens. There's like some magic or mystery that happens and you're like, oh, I didn't know that you liked kind of the thing you liked, X, Y, and Z, and that's a good I guess like jumping point into future projects and stuff. So I like
Yeah.
that idea.
And I think a great thing to just tie in here, though, is like not every single person you're going to meet is going to be one of those like immediate connections. There may be
Yeah.
people that you meet just once and then you both decide like maybe there's not something here. That doesn't mean that's the end of that. It could mean that in a year's time, 6 months' time, 5 years down the line, you may be able to reconnect. And so that's where I'm saying nurturing your connections, nurturing your leads are just as important. And so some simple check-ins, like, how is this, if we're using, like I'm saying corporate lingo, like how is the last quarter for you? But if let's say it's not someone company-wide, you can just say like, what's been new with you? What new projects are you working on? What do you have in the pipeline for this year? Are there ways for us to collaborate together? And then that way you're building and nurturing that kind of relationship during that time as well.
Cool. Are there any specific skills a person should already have in order to be able to network?
I really don't think so. I mean, there's definitely certain things that can help elevate oneself. And I would say like, um, being like an effective communicator and possibly, how you branch out and share to someone that you want to connect with them. But I wouldn't say that there's really anything that you need to like do on the back end upskill in order to network better. I really think though the research piece of it is really what's going to be what supports you in how you begin to connect with others and grow your network.
Cool. So would you say, I mean, it's been a while since I've done like my own in-person networking event. But I did attend one where it was kind of like well, I equated it to speed dating. Because we were like in a room for like 5 minutes and you had like 5 minutes to kind of like get to know the person, and then a bell would go off and then you were in front of like another person. I had like total fun in that whole situation. But good are there better places to network than others, or is that just depending on the individual themselves?
Great question. I think there's a few ways to break this down. I always say that, like, if you're meeting for a cause, so like there's meetup.com, and then there's like the professional affiliations that are out there. I think those are more, again, coming back to that word intentional, probably easier and maybe more inclusive and safer ways to connect with others, where maybe in a virtual climate, just like that, reaching out over certain boards or job boards may feel a bit not comfortable or not safe. But I would say that there's a few elements there that would be how I would approach in connecting and showing up.
Cool. Have you developed your own special networking skills for yourself that just work time and time again?
Yeah, I think at first I just started to create some templates that I use, and I don't want that to come off like I organized a certain way to how I shared that with others. But that did help me when I felt like, oh, this person's not going to answer me. But what I mean by templates, though, is just like not that the words would remain the same, but like the concept. So some of them would really be like reaching out to someone because I thought that their role was really interesting and wanted to learn about it. If the company had a mission or a vision or its values were really important to me, that kind of template. And then just seeing, again, job titles, or if not job titles, again, like the coaching industry, just seeing a coach with a certain niche. Those are like the templates I would use in order to reach out. I mean, once upon a time, I think we all saw that on LinkedIn, you only had X amount of characters to reach out to someone, or you had to use an InMail. And so I tried to make sure that like I got to the point too, because I know we're in a world where people just want to be able to read and see what you're looking for. But I just got smart about that. And I wouldn't say like I like chose people and then said like tomorrow I'm going to reach out. I just would like carve out 15 to 30 minutes a day for like what I call professional development time. And in that time, baked an area where I would be networking. And so whether that be I was reaching out on one day, then the next day, if people wrote back to me, using that half-hour slot to then connect live, either once upon a time when it was live, or virtual, like through a Zoom, a FaceTime, or that way.
Oh, sweet. So I mean, you clearly know a lot about networking. So do you like host your own networking, I guess, like parties in your leisure, or just like, yeah, just gonna do this a couple times a week just to keep my skills sharp?
Yeah, I love that you said that. I wouldn't say at this moment I've been doing any kind of that I've been able to do in person. As part of Women's History Month and International Women's Day this month, I've actually been able to host just one, and then next week, shameless plug, for a networking power hour through LinkedIn Audio to bring individuals together. So I would say that's my way of bringing the networking together and bringing my networks organically together. I've also starting in the new year, created a group on LinkedIn called the Career Development Professionals Community. And so I started to just look for others that were in career development, whether that be higher education, tech, or coaching, so that individuals could meet each other. Again, at first, it kind of feels like it's my group, my party, like the common denominator is me, but I'm hoping that the expansion allows for these individuals to then invite others who we can all be meeting. That way we can all be supporting each other.
Yeah, no, well, I'm gonna add to your shameless plug and go check her out on LinkedIn and sharpen your own networking skills, because it doesn't only exist in, a career world. Like there's 1,000 ways you can kind of like utilize networking, whether you're at like your kids, I don't know, football game, or you learn how to play an instrument, just about anything. It's just really just a way to connect, for me anyway.
I totally agree. Just another thing that I'd love to share that I worked on this month and that I'm hoping to elevate and take to the next level is there's this thing called Zoom photography, where like over Zoom you take photos, and not every photographer is like well versed in this. It's something that grew out of COVID because photographers couldn't meet with people.
Right.
And so being that, on LinkedIn, it's a global like tool and platform. I was like looking for photographers who were well versed in this so that we could do like headshots for, again, women in business, women in tech. And so I'm looking, again, for photographers who are out there who are interested in this. That way we can, help those who are like returning back to work, those who have been on parental leave, those who have been part of these layoffs that have been happening, those who just want career changes. That way we can really highlight these special individuals based off of, what are their career development goals and aspirations, and then be able to give them a free headshot,
Yeah.
in it. And so that they can promote themselves better on their social media outlets and networks.
Well, I'm glad you spoke about the Zoom photography because I didn't know that was a thing, and I use Zoom like pretty much almost every day. So that's a nice fun fact. So thank you for sharing that little gem.
Of
um,
course.
so what do you like to do for fun? Completely sidebar, just what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah. I I make people laugh because I tend to, and I also make my husband laugh, but I read a lot of self-help, self-development books, mainly because I love like neuroscience and the brain and the psychology of the brain, and how we show up for things. And so when I can, although not that I'm saying I'm busy, it's by no means of that, but when I do find like a really interesting article or even a snippet from a book, I'm always like in it just so that I can be able in these kind of platforms or spaces or through my writing be able to talk about them. But if not that, I mean, at the same time, I'm a really family oriented person. Me and my husband, we've been married for almost 2 years
Well,
now. We just got, thank you.
congratulations.
We have a new puppy that
Oh,
is our baby right now. We both, love our immediate and extended families and try to see them as much as possible. In this new season of life where I'm saying home ownership and in career, all of our friends are just at different points. And so when we can, we try to see our friends. We both are very fortunate that our friendship groups go all the way back to basically being in elementary school. So we have friends that we've had for over 20 odd years now. And so it's been
yeah.
really nice to see like everyone just grow up into, who they are and who they've been like meant to be. And then if not doing that, like to go to breweries, like to go to wineries, love concerts, love music, love karaoke.
Yes.
That doesn't scream high extrovert as well. I don't know what else does. Love astrology, so really into like signs and astrology charts. And yeah, I would say like that's a lot. I mean, I love when I say TV and film, I really love like good movies. My husband and I try to watch like a movie a week. He has this app that collects the movies that we watch. And so at the end of the year, it tells us how many we watched, what were the like percentage of genres.
That's
Um,
pretty cool.
yeah, and I guess you could say I am obsessed with Ted Lasso, my favorite TV show, and I'd like to think I'm the female version of Ted Lasso. So you can call me Med Masso instead. Marianne Matarese, Med Masso.
I love it, Mad Masso. Got it. I'm definitely keeping that in the forefront of my brain. I love it. I just like to know what people do on their own time, because as much as this show is about personal development, it is also about you as a person and you just being you and just kind of seeing how you show up in what you do best. And that's I find to be like the most beautiful part. Because you get to, learn some new things and you're like, oh, I never thought about that before. But that's pretty cool. At least I enjoy those little moments in my mind.
I
That's
definitely
just
love that. There are all those connections and parallels, and it definitely shows up. I'm very much a connector and a provider for friends and family. And I think that shows up again in my work and my extended work.
yeah, we're all extensions of something. Um, so I get has there been like from all your work on your own, like self-development and things that you read, have you found that there are like some kind of myths that people kind of I don't want to like use for their own as a measuring stick that really may not be applicable.
Yeah, surface level, I would just like to say, like, I know some of us have maybe more luck or easier times doing things or obtaining things, but I would say a myth out there is just like, that you need um, to have like a very strong person in your corner in order to obtain or get
Mm.
something. I mean, yes, having strong advocates in your corner is what's going to be important, but I really think we make and give what and receive what we give. So it's all like abundance mindset. If you can return to that, like, we're all here and like everything is for us, then like
Mhm.
there's nothing we can't get.
Right.
But if we live in that fixed mindset of like there's only 3 coaches out there and like those are the best coaches, or like I am not the best writer because there's all like, then you'll never really be able to. And I think we all have a story to tell.
Mhm.
I think we're all storytellers naturally at our core root. And so I just would encourage anyone that, you may hit a lot of roadblocks and obstacles along the way, but it's worth it when you hear at the end of that journey, like that X thing meant so much to that person, or like when it gets to the other side of the world and like your name's being dropped, like, again, it doesn't have to be for such things as like, creating a TV show or a film, but like it could be smaller things, but have larger impact,
Yeah.
and I just think that it's important to return to that, and um, just so that you can feel whole and complete in trying to obtain uh, the goals that you do have.
No, that's true. Couldn't have said it better. So, what are some key things about following up with somebody that you connected with at a networking event? Because I know a lot of people kind of struggle with that. And it's just like, well, how do I now follow up, or what's the proper way to follow up after a
Yeah.
connection?
Well, once upon a time when it was in person, and I know we're getting back there, that's great. And
Yeah.
like, let's not forget that. But I think what's important is like letting the person know where you met them. Because in the virtual space, it's easy to be like, nice to meet you. But when you did meet someone in person, telling them where you met them will allow them to remember you. Because if people are meeting so many people by day, they might forget, unfortunately. And don't take that personal, though. That's just life, right? So being able to say, like, we met at said event, and then the thing you talked about, if you can always bring it back to the one thing you discussed, I think that's another way just to, and it also kind of irons out like the intentionality of like why you're reconnecting over, and then how to be able to then continue to keep talking. I think immediately saying like, can we get some time on the calendar to chat again, shows
Mm.
that you're being proactive about wanting to nurture and still have this relationship. When you just say like, okay, it was great to meet you, it kind of closes, it's very close-ended. But being able to then say like, let's connect, puts it out there that, that you want to meet, and then it holds out that, this connection can last uh, a lot longer. And I think this getting into a regular practice or cadence, like, it can be overwhelming for someone to have them be like, oh, like, let's meet weekly. Maybe
Mhm.
weekly, yes, is a bit too much, but I think it is fair in that conversation when you do meet to say like, can we practice a regular cadence of meeting once a month? And then that way you're both holding each other, if we go back to your accountability partners, that you're meeting, because it could very much be like, when you think about meetings or when life happens, so easy to tell someone like, I don't have time for that, I have to cancel on you
Yeah.
today. But the intentionality again of like, let's reschedule and we will get it, just shows that you're both there for a reason. And again, it doesn't have to be this like convoluted 1 hour thing. Even if some of your conversations are just like that quick 15-minute catch up, I think that's great. I always tell everyone at the end of any kind of networking event or networking virtual call that you always say like, what is one other person I should be meeting with? And that
Mm.
allows them to then give you another referral or name of someone who that you can connect with. And you should be giving them that as well, that you
Yeah.
both leave with another name or connection. That way you just don't know how you're paying it forward. You don't know how you're referring the next person to the right person, or getting the right person in front of the right person,
Yeah.
and helping them.
No, that's cool. As you were saying that, it kind of, I heard someone once say, you know, before you go into a networking event, you should set an intention of what you're kind of like expecting to get out of the event, and kind of like ask like, who do I need to meet in that networking events? Do you have any thoughts on that piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really good too. I always try, especially, I think what's more front of mind for me is virtual, but I mean, I'm so happy to talk about in person and can't wait to get back into an in-person event. But, you know, even in the virtual space, you can start to see the agendas of like who's going to be there. If it's one of those, I'm saying, larger, well put together events. And I think what's great is I always then start to research these people on the back end.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm already finding a connection, and when I say connection, meaning like I see that there's something or commonalities bringing us together, I'll already reach out to that person and say like, I can't wait to hear your talk at said event, or if you have a few minutes that day, I'd love to talk to you a bit further. That way, like, you're already getting your name into the room for said thing. And I guess that works with the in-person too. If you happen to get the set agenda, or you know who's going to be going, just start to know like what tables or individuals you want to go up to. That way you can maximize your time, but still asking the same question after speaking with someone, like, you know, who else did you meet today that you think I should connect with, is like a really empowering question, because it gives that person the ownership of like, wow, they value my thought, and like, wow, let me get them in front of someone here that, you know, was really great or passionate about meeting.
That's cool. So you clearly are excited about in-person networking, and like you seem to have a love for it. What one thing makes you so excited about it? I mean, other than, you know, being in front of a person, you know, in real time.
Yeah, you know, coaching, I've always been so passionate about, and it still very much exists, because I find in coaching, I don't just obviously get to coach, but I get to provide resources, or I get to provide connections for individuals to, you know, it's always about like, who else can I get them in front of? Because I think, again, having your cheerleaders, your advocates, your support is tremendous in just one's development, one's growth, one's passions. But, you know, I just think it's important to always make sure that, you know, you're staying true to you. But I guess what makes me passionate about is just being able to do things like this. You know, before 2023, I was always like waiting for the invitation, like waiting for the coachee to find me, waiting for others who had the same interest as me to come to me. And then I realized like it didn't have to be like that. Although I've been networking for as long as I could say I have a LinkedIn, even though I do it outside of that as well. But that's largely where, you know, it goes back to this year. I was like, there's no harm, there's no foul. Like, you know, I want to really, at the center of it, like create more like people-centric, human-centric type of opportunities for individuals to meet and to connect, and to be able to talk about the things that, not just that I'm passionate about, but finding others who are passionate about it, and giving people that voice and amplifying that. And so I'm just saying, through these networking opportunities, it's allowed me to be able to be on remarkable podcasts, you know, such as yours, or, you know, be able to collaborate with other coaches on like LinkedIn audios, and just like get our names and our brands out there. That way, if someone is looking for us, they can find us, because, you know, being alone, feeling isolated is rough. And when you can find other people to meet, that can help subside that. I think that there's a lot of value in that kind of love and grace and kindness.
No, absolutely. I love it. Because yeah, there's 8 billion people on this planet that all need someone's help. So I always say, yeah, the market isn't that polluted or that crowded. There's 8 billion people living on this planet. Somebody needs something, and it could just be from you. You just never know. And you just got to kind of
I
step
love
out of your
that.
own comfort, and just step out of your own shell, and just do what you do best and show up. That's, one
Yeah.
of the things that, at least one of the undertones of today's episode, is just show up. That's half the battle.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
true.
guess one of my last questions is, what's the best way to work a room?
Yeah. Well, so this is a two-sided answer for my introverts and my extroverts. Introverts, I'm sure that you're going to spend a bit more time doing the research on who's going to be there because, right, you're going to want to protect your energy and only exude the energy that is worth giving out. And so with working a room, I think it comes back to intentionality. It's not about having to talk to all 100 people, but, maybe finding your key people that you want to connect with, or starting with just one always helps. And then you never know who that person could introduce you to. Because isn't there like that joke out there, like every introvert has the extrovert friend that has
Oh
taken
yeah.
them for the ride, right? And then for the extrovert, like you just have to remember too that our energy depletes. And so you have to also be intentional there. Again, don't make sure you're talking to 100 people in the room, but like, who are you, and like trying to captivate or bring in, and like what is it for, I think is like where an extrovert will spend most of their time in. And so I think when you think about yourself, your podcast, just be like, think about your brand.
Yeah.
Who are you and how do you want to promote yourself? What are your values? What are your strengths? What are your motivations and desires? And it's not about like the elevator pitch, but how would you talk about yourself, or what you can give, or what you can provide to others? Be able to equip yourself with that. That way, when you go into the room, your empowerment, your confidence can really shine. And we all have bad days, right? So not every day is going to be a ball out of the park, but even on those days, return to the center, return to you, return to your foundation, and just continue to start small. And it may be one day like you won't have a connection or a follower or whatever, but then maybe the next day is a better day, and it helps you.
Yeah.
I always say, for every 10 no's out there, just from being a recruiter, there's always a yes after that. And so it really is about the landscape, but it's also about like quality over quantity. And you just need to remember that, so that you don't, again, burn yourself out or get, disheartened by what's out there.
Awesome. And where can people connect with you and soak up some more of your knowledge and wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I love to always point everyone back to LinkedIn, so you can find me, Marianne Matarese. And I'm sure Delia will be able to share out my link with all of you. But yeah, find me there. And just like we've been sharing in this podcast today, like just send me a message and I'm happy to connect with you, happy to entertain a virtual coffee chat, happy to get you in front of my network already that's out there. And then we can talk more about what your needs are or what you're looking for, and support you in however that may be.
Awesome. Well, Marianne, I want to thank you again for being part of the show and just coming on here and sharing what you know best and all your goodness. I really appreciate it. I know the audience did. And just to fall in line with the theme is intention. This is the year of intention. So I'm being intentional with the content, and just, helping people, because we're all just trying to figure it out like the next person. And if we can just share, things that we learn along the way and just do a good deed and pay it forward, things will be okay. I believe in humanity. And just, thank you for coming on and sharing. I'm so glad that we were able to connect. And yeah, there's power in collaboration, and let's just keep on going,
Yeah, I love it. Thank you again so much for having me. I look forward to even more collaborations and partnership with you and supporting everyone out there. But remember, be true to you, be kind to yourself, and keep moving mountains, because you can.
Absolutely. I love it. So guys, I will see you next week for another amazing episode of Just Be You, giving some more practical information and ways to just navigate life, because who doesn't want to be able to successfully navigate through life? And if no one's told you today, remember that you are strong, you are worthy, and you are enough. And I'll catch you on the next bat time. Bye.
Bye.